When I was a wee lad, if you'd asked me what one of my favourite TV shows was, I would have said Takeshi's Castle.
No. You're not getting the fancy shirt today. It is 30 fucking degrees here and I'm dying.
I had never seen the original Japanese broadcast, and to be honest, I didn't even know who Takeshi Kitano was. For the American viewers out there, you most likely watched Takeshi's Castle as Most Extreme Elimination Challenge. However, I saw it in the UK where it was narrated by Craig Charles. Craig Charles at this point was well known for his role as Lister from Red Dwarf, and was known as the narrator for Robot Wars.
There's a lot of floaters in that moat.
One of my favourite episodes of the original broadcast was the Monster Special, which to this day is probably one of the funniest bits of television I've ever seen in my life. Takeshi's Castle was so infamously difficult that only 8 people had ever won this competition.
Yeah, not quite. This is a myth that has since been disproven by this chap here. Even though the castle had been overthrown 8 times, there was actually altogether 36 contestants.
And we've got a winner! What do they win though? Absolutely nothing.
And that's not including the people who won the Fighting Spirit Award. We'll get to this later, and we'll get to this chap later.
Fun fact, by the way, when I discovered this little tidbit of knowledge and I told my dad about this, his response was this. Well, Reese, you're one of 8 people who ever watched Takeshi's Castle.
Now, initially, I had my doubts about the show. The production value isn't great, there's some pretty bad CGI in it, and I kind of thought I was watching Firefest.
It has been the absolute wildest journey to get here, and it really all started during the 7th-month stint in solitary confinement.
But ultimately, though, the show did win me over for 2 main reasons. The contestants have really unique and interesting personalities that were really emphasized in the show. There's a few great cameos from a lot of Japanese celebrities. And the second reason that I like this reboot is because Takeshi Kitano proves that even in his 80s, he's still a complete asshole and troll.
Who are these colourful characters, you may ask? Well, let's start off with the opposition to our contestants, the Emerald Guard. The original broadcast of Takeshi's Castle was no stranger to using professional wrestlers as their intimidating guards, and the new show is no different. The reboot of Takeshi's Castle uses mostly wrestlers from New Japan Pro Wrestling, including Togi Makabe, who himself is a big television star in Japan, to Mikey Honma, everyone's favourite jobber with laryngitis, wrestling legend Jushin Thunder Liger, and it should be noted as well that Hiroki Goto also makes an appearance in the final episode. Hiroki Goto will be playing E Honda in the new Street Fighter movie, along with Cody Rhodes.
Now let's move on to the contestants themselves. A lot of them came from normal backgrounds. Some of them were dancers, some of them were idols. Some of them are just work colleagues or went to school with each other. You even have people that actually competed on Takeshi's Castle 30 years prior.
Speaking of the dancers that came onto the show, I want to talk about this contestant later. Keep in mind that her goal is to find love. We'll talk about her later. They also have YouTubers in the show. That guy looks awfully familiar. Must be my imagination.
And remember this chap from earlier? Well, he was also in the reboot as well. Also, I'm not sure how you pronounce this person's name, but she's a football player and she competed in Takeshi's Castle and she completely won me over as well. Mainly because she was so charismatic and most of the time she just looked terrified out of her mind, like she didn't want to be there. But she kept persevering and even got to the finals. It was actually quite admirable. And what's very interesting is that the reboot actually has winners from Mr. Sasuke, or as I knew it as a kid, Ninja Warrior. And yes, by the way, the Ninja Warrior winners were gobsmacked at how completely difficult this game is as well. And no, they didn't win either. One of the competitors from Mr. Sasuke is Katsumi Yamada. Now, initially, I didn't think much of this. I just assumed, okay, that's cool, another Ninja Warrior contestant. But then the memories came back to me like a Vietnam flashback. I remembered Yamada was the man who simply couldn't win Ninja Warrior. He was always the guy that would always lose. He'd be this close, and he still couldn't get it. In fact, recently I found out that his obsession with Ninja Warrior is so intense that it ended up alienating himself from his own family. Rough. Yamada is really funny in the show, even if he is unintentionally funny, because any obstacle he comes across in Takeshi's castle, he loses immediately. Yamada actually helps out the contestants to get over the wall, which at first you think is very admirable, but then you realize, or the commentators realize, the only reason he was helping them out is because they were women. The other guys, though, the men, didn't give two shits about. Never change, Yamada. Never change. Well, actually, you should change, because you did lose your family playing the game, but it's funny. As soon as this reboot starts, you know Takeshi Kitano is not messing around. The second game in is Dragon's Pond, or as I would have known it, Skipping Stones. Nobody won this game. I'm being dead serious. This already started off with a so-called 100% difficulty, and no one got through.
But hey, though, sounds like it was a complete coincidence to me. Can't get any worse than that, right? Left?
Now, would you believe me if I told you that the reboot of Takeshi's Castle is somehow even more difficult than the original? I didn't think that was possible, but they found a way to do it. But how did they do this, however? Well, I want you to just imagine, if you will, that they decided to combine two of the hardest games. For example, let's say realistically that they actually combined Skipping Stones, the game where you have to run over stones to get to the end, but then as soon as you win it, you then have to do Bridge Ball, which was arguably the most difficult game in the entire series, where the contestants had to walk on a bridge while being shot at by balls. So imagine if they combined those two games together. That's what they did. You have to complete Skipping Stones and Bridge Ball. It's a miracle anyone even got to the finale in the show.
This is completely ridiculous. It's intellectual muckerism.
There were a lot of funny moments in this reboot, but without a shadow of a doubt, this was my favorite part. In the final episode, one of the obstacles was called Super Bridge Over the Battlefield. For the UK viewers, this was very similar to Slipway. No contestant in this episode won this game, except one person. Remember this girl who said that she wanted to get married earlier in the show? Well, as she got to the end of this course and was about to be pushed over the edge because she didn't quite make it, she professed her love to Jushin Thunder Liger. She was begging him, this 50-year-old man in a mask, don't push me off because I want to marry you. And she got through the game. The commentators were absolutely gobsmacked by that. Ultimately, though, the reboot of Takeshi's Castle, is it as funny as the original? Honestly, no. But the reason I wanted to talk about it today is because it gave me such a new appreciation of the show. Because obviously, since I watched it in English, I obviously had no idea about a lot of the rules of the original Takeshi's Castle. For example, I was always baffled by the fact of how many people even got to the finals anyway, considering most of these people I saw lose in the game. And that is why, in the original show, there was something called the Fighting Spirit Award. The Fighting Spirit Award was given to people who had very funny personalities or failed so badly that they actually ended up getting through. This was a good way to get contestants through because most of the time you would have not even seen a final, let alone a winner.
Now, I don't know what people think of this reboot, but in a way though, it just makes me love Takeshi Kitano even more, because as he gets older, he becomes more and more of a troll, and that's what this reboot was, because this game was ridiculously difficult for no reason at all. And no, before you ask, nobody won this game either.